Good morning, happy Thursday. We're still in these beautiful beltane energies, and astrological beltane is actually when our sun reaches 15 degrees of Taurus. So it's currently at 12 degrees. So if you are wanting to celebrate beltane over the weekend because maybe you missed it yesterday, then the weekend, as we get into Saturday and Sunday, will be the perfect time to celebrate beltane, to have a second go perhaps at doing your manifestation, of creating your magic, of taking that extra time to really think about what you're wanting to call into your life. What are you going to birth now, and what seeds are you planting to harvest later in the year? So the energies are very ripe, very potent at the moment. There's a lot of incoming light codes for beltane as we get with every turn of the wheel of the year. But it's been a strange year, hasn't it? A very, very grey winter, felt like a very long winter, a very short, sharp spring, which went them back into the grey. So hopefully now we're going to harness these energies of beltane to create a really beautiful late spring going into summer. So from beltane, we have 6 weeks to go until summer solstice. So we're then at the peak of the year. So while this year has been very interesting and April has been incredibly intense, we're now welcoming in a more magical May. We're welcoming in a month where we are able to really take time for ourselves, to really lean into Venus being in Taurus. Now, I spoke a bit about this on Tuesday. I spoke very much about Venus in Taurus and Mars in Aries, and it was very much about sex, death, rebirth, very much about harnessing those energies, the union of the divine feminine, the union of the divine feminine, divine masculine, and how it's all about creating and co-creating and procreating at this time of year. But Venus in Taurus is also about abundance, and this brings up a whole new mindset around abundance. So I'm going to talk about Venus coming into Taurus, and before I forget, I'm also going to touch on Pluto in Aquarius because she's starting to go retrograde, and I feel that's going to bring some really interesting revelations for us. But back to Venus in Taurus. Venus in Taurus, she's so happy here. It's about beauty, it's about abundance, it's about sensuality. But then we start to look at what is abundance to us. What does it mean to us to be abundant? Especially if we're walking the spiritual path, the ascension pathway, what does abundance actually mean to you? And even if you're walking another spiritual pathway, what does it look like? What is your perception around abundance? How much is enough? And what point do you really get into fear, and what point does that security mindset start to trigger? So these are really big questions I want you to think about. In fact, these are questions that I am going to be really journaling on over the next few days. What is abundance? How much is enough? And noticing when your scarcity mindset starts being triggered, because we're in a position where we don't have to have scarcity. The universe is abundant, it will provide for us all, but what is it that abundance means for you? Is it, for example, having a lot of money in your bank account? Does it mean having beautiful food on the table? Does it mean having an abundance of beautiful friendships, of beautiful relationships, people you can rely on? Is your cup filled when you're in a community, be it your community, be it another person's community? Is your cup filled and overflowing by really enjoying the sensual nature of life, by walking barefoot? Is it filled up like I am at the moment? This for me is abundance, being able to sit in my garden, do my work, listen to the birds. What is it for you? Is it material security? Is it emotional security? Is it energetic security? Is it physical security? What makes you feel abundant? Now for me, it's a mixture of all four. But then we have to really look at something around our abundance mindset, but also around our money mindset as well. And we really need to think about how much is enough. And if we're on this spiritual path, it's not about being in poverty, but how much do we really need, and how much is enough for us to sustain a lifestyle in which we feel abundant. That benchmark is going to be very different for everybody. So I really want you to dig into these topics, because when we start talking about abundance, we naturally gravitate towards, I am abundant because I have so much in my bank account, this money is flowing to me all the time. But is true abundance something else for you? Is it really not about material security, material wealth? Is it about the love and the blessings that you have within your life? Is it a combination of that? Is it something completely different? Is abundance to you being able to go out for really sumptuous, great meals at Michelin-starred restaurants? Or is abundance for you being able to go to your local pub, your local hostelry, and enjoy some traditional pub food? Is it somewhere in between, or is it about going on a holiday? And your sign of abundance and holidays can be anything from a 5-star resort to going camping, to going on a canal boat, to, oh gosh, what other kind of holidays can you have? An active holiday, a walking holiday, is it a retreat? What is it that makes you feel abundant? Really starting to dig into it, and what does beauty mean to you? For me, beauty and abundance go together, because when we feel beautiful, accepted, wanted, sensual, we feel abundant. So really dig into that. And also, what does it trigger for you when we start talking about sensuality and enjoying beauty? What guilt arises? What shame arises? And how can you move through that? How are you going to transmute that? So kind of segueing a little bit into Pluto going retrograde in Aquarius a little bit later on today. But this really fits with the theme of Venus in Taurus and Pluto moving backwards into Aquarius, because when we start to talk about abundance, we naturally talk about wealth and materialism, because they're the things that drive our planet at the moment. It's very 3D, the way we're still driven by money. We're not quite at a system where we've got new cash flows, where abundance is swapping for me healing for, I don't know, a dozen eggs and a bag of potatoes. We're not quite at that stage yet, so we're going to have that money energy around. But if you have wealth and materialism in your life, does that reflect how spiritual you are? So we talk a lot about manifesting. We talk a lot about the right to be spiritual, to be wealthy, and to be abundant. What does that mean for you? Do the two go together? Is there still a disconnect for you within that? Is it a spiritual illusion sometimes that actually I am wealthy, I am material, I have all this in my life, I am deeply spiritual? Are you? That's the question I'm going to ask you. So it's not about being poor, it's not about being in poverty, it's about the inner work that you do. It's about your presence. When you show up in front of other people, when you're on your own, when you're leading your communities, when you're, like I am, in front of a video camera, when you're presenting on stage. It's about the hard work that you do internally, which is reflected in your presence. And on the path that I follow, we very much call this stepping into your Preistess presence. You've done the work, you're still committed to doing the work, and you're coming out to shine your light. You are elevating your consciousness all the time. You are doing that transmuting, the shadow work, but you're not feeding your ego. You're not feeding your ego by saying how amazing you are, by telling everybody how much of the inner work that you're doing. You're just showing up as yourself. It's all about being the light. It's all about leading from your heart, creating this presence that other people are magnetized to. It's not about the trappings of materialism, or what I would call spiritual consumerism. You don't need anything to be spiritual, okay? You just need yourself. You need a deep connection in with your heart. You may choose to have that deep connection in with your guides, your angels, ascended masters. You may find that actually being sitting in peace and connecting to your heart, being in that state of silence and meditation is what you need. So I'm going to really ask you now to think about overt shows of spirituality. What does that bring up for you? Does that activate or maybe trigger you into a particular train of thought? Can you step into your priest or priestess presence every day? Can you show up as the light that you are, as the heart-led leader that you are? Will you be stepping into this presence knowing that the work never stops? Or are you going to parade how spiritual you are by what you wear, how you act, what you've bought, how many courses you've signed up to? So these are really deep, dark questions, and I'm giving them to you to really ponder and consider. I have my own thoughts on this, I have my own inner work to be doing on this, but we really need to start talking about spiritual consumerism. Less is more, okay? You don't need so much stuff to put yourself on the path where you are committed to doing the inner work, where you are committed to showing up to your daily practices, where you are committed to doing the inner work and stepping up in your priest or priestess presence. So I really want you to think about that today. The reason I'm saying this is because Pluto is going to move backwards into Aquarius. So she's at 2 degrees of Aquarius. She's going to move back, and then in September she'll make her final segue back into Capricorn. I'm saying this because Pluto is the dark goddess of transformation. She is going to come and bring a wrecking ball through spirituality. This is what I'm seeing. This retrograde is going to come back. It's going to bring a wrecking ball through people who are spiritual consumers, who are, how should we say this really politely, really playing into pain points to sell something which is not heart-led. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about pain points in another video, because that's a whole other topic that we could really go into. She's going to come, from what I'm been channeling, from what I'm envisaging, she's bringing that wrecking ball through our community, through the spiritual community. She is going to wheedle out the people who are not leading from the heart. She is going to expose the people who are feeding their ego, who are wrapped up in spiritual consumerism. That's her job. So she's going to do that, and then in September she'll go back into Capricorn, and there'll be more destruction of the 3D matrix and reality. Then when she goes direct in Aquarius, again, we have those lessons that we've learnt. We have grown, we have transformed, we have taken poison and alchemized it into medicine. So just watch over the summer as she's retrograde in Aquarius. Who are you? What is your truth? Are you stepping up into your priest and priestess presence? Are you doing the inner work? Do you acknowledge that the inner work is always going to be going on? Or are you feeding ego? And if you're watching in the spiritual community and go, oh, that's not me, it might not be. But don't judge other people who are going through it. Don't judge other people who go, oh, I don't like what they're doing. Oh, that's spiritual consumerism. Don't judge it. Let it all fall away as it's meant to. Continue to lead from your heart. Continue to step into your I am presence. Watch what's going on, but don't feed the drama of what is going on. I really feel it's going to be quite a dramatic summer, because not only that, we've got Saturn and Neptune going retrograde in Pisces, and then we've got another Mercury retrograde in Leo right back over where Venus retrograded last year. So it's going to be an interesting summer. It feels quite tumultuous. So don't judge, do the inner work, keep away from the drama, but keep being deeply, authentically you. So So I've talked a lot this morning. I've left you loads of questions. I not really shared my thoughts because that's for me to go away and journal, and that's for me to really marshal my thoughts, because there are some of these topics which deeply activate me on so many levels. So I need to go away and do my inner work around my judgment, around my fears as well, and around my fear of other people judging me for what I'm saying. So just to quickly round up, think about abundance. What does abundance mean to you? Can you step into your priest or priestess presence? Are you leading from your heart? And have you committed to doing the inner work and continuing to do the inner work basically for the rest of your life? So I'm sending you so much love. I'd love to hear your comments, and if you've made it through to the end of the video, that's amazing. Other things to mention, I am moving over onto Substack because I really like it. I feel I've got a lot more freedom of speech there. So I will pop the links underneath if you want to come and join me. Everything's free at the moment until I decide what kind of community I want to create, and I'm still thinking of a name. I think it's going to be the Starfire Temple or the Starfire Temple of Arianrod. Not really sure, but we will work it out. So that's all underneath. And if you want a birth chart reading, I have some space during May, so I'd love to read for you. Again, I'll put the link underneath. So it's a birth chart reading from a goddess astrology perspective, really helping you step into that priest or priestess presence. Sending you so much love and wishing you the most beautiful Beltane energies now and over the weekend. Astrological Beltane. Take care.